I've never seen anybody fetishize the mere idea of consistency as much as destiny. Okay, if you don't have consistency in an argument, then the logic part completely falls apart. Now, in terms of living in real life, nobody is perfectly consistent. People make mistakes. That's fine. That's why they're called ideals, okay? Nobody lives up to them, all right? I'm not saying that people in real life need to be perfect or they can never be bad or wrong, otherwise they're horrible, hypocritical people. I'm just saying, well, let's talk about the ideal. Like, what should we be striving for? We don't strive to be imperfect. We strive to be perfect. It's strange because I'll say, like, we should never, like, my ideal might be, we should never insult somebody. And then somebody goes, okay, well, you insult people, so you're a hypocrite. No. What would make me hypocritical is if I defend insulting people while simultaneously saying I shouldn't. I feel like there's a lot of, I don't know if there's like a ladder or a chart that I could draw, but I see where a lot of people get lost in these arguments because there's like, it feels like I'm being weaselly, but there are contexts that you have to understand to make these arguments in order to make sense of these arguments. Like if somebody said, I don't know if this makes sense to you guys or if you guys are like lost in this. If somebody says insulting people is bad, we shouldn't do it, but then they insult somebody, that doesn't necessarily make them a hypocrite. It just makes them imperfect, if they acknowledge it's a mistake or they fucked up. But if somebody says insulting people is bad, and then they defend insulting people, well, now they're being hypocritical. Now they have a contradiction in their moral system. Just because, or in the beliefs that they're espousing, right? Just because you make a mistake doesn't mean that you have a contradiction or you're a hypocrite, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it could in severe cases, right? But like generally, the problem is if you start to make exceptions where it's not logically permissible to do so. Does that make sense? People seem to fundamentally misunderstand the idea of having principles of ideals, kind of like how hypotheticals seem to destroy people's brains. Yeah. Maybe I'm missing something, but why did you let him use the excuse morally neutral? We wouldn't say not voting is morally neutral. It depends on what he's talking about, I guess. People confuse making an honest effort to be good over the same things people actively ignore their own morals. Yeah, people get lost like so much in that. Holy shit. Probably expand on what happens if your logic disintegrates, pit of incoherence, whatnot. Okay, fuck, I suck at, I don't know if this is prop logic or the next part. I can explain the concept of the principle of explosion, but it's hard to do it with like the conjunctive logic or whatever, just because I haven't taken the classes. But let me see if I can explain why. Going through like the formal like assertion of it is not as satisfying as just understanding the principle. Is it prop logic? Okay, yeah. So I'll just read you the intro here for people that don't understand why contradictions are bad, I guess. But here we go. In classical logic, intuitionist logic, and similar logical systems, the principle of explosion, from falsehood anything follows, or ex contradictione, whatever the fuck that means, whatever, or the principle of pseudo scotus, is the law according to which any statement can be proven from a contradiction. That is, once a contradiction has been asserted, any proposition, including their negations, can be inferred from it. This is known as deductive explosion. So this is basically saying that, like, if you can take some system, some logical set of rules, and there's a contradiction that exists within that set of rules, so something clearly contradicts something else, then from that contradiction, we could basically make any statement we want to, and it would be logically coherent inside the incoherent system, I guess. The proof of this principle is first given by 12th century French philosopher William of Soissons, I can't pronounce this guy's name. Due to the principle of explosion, the existence of a contradiction in a formal axiomatic system is disastrous since any statement can be proven. It trivializes the concepts of truth and falsity. Around the turn of the 20th century, the discovery of contradictions, such as Russell's paradox, the foundations of mathematics, thus threatened the entire structure of mathematics. Mathematicians such as Gottlieb Frege, Ernst Zermelo, Abraham Frankel, and Thorolf Skolem put much effort into revising set theory to eliminate these contradictions, resulting in the modern Zermelo-Frankel set theory. Jesus, I don't know what the fuck any of that is, but what is Russell's paradox? Showed that some attempted formalizations of the naive set theory created by led to a contradiction. The same paradox had been discovered in 1899, but he didn't publish the idea. What a loser. Publish your work, boys. According to the naive set theory, any definable collection is a set. Let R is not a member of itself, then its definition must contain itself, and it contains itself, then it contradicts its own definition. Oh, so it's just some contradiction in set theory, or naive set theory. Losers. Why the fuck would you have a theory and call it naive? There's their first mistake. Dumb fucks. Explosion is only a property of a few logics, including classical, but not all logics. Okay, I would challenge you. I don't believe that there is any type of normal logical system that all of us function under that can accept contradictions. I do not believe you. I'm sure that there are some logics that can deal with it. I think the term I've heard used before is like paraconsistent logic or whatever, where you can have like contradictions, but like in 99% of like all like cases, you're not dealing with you're not dealing with contradictions. You just can't. You can't bear them. They aren't used by most people. No, LOL. I didn't say they were widely used. Okay, but then why contradict what I'm saying? Okay, you fucking DGG cheddar. Vaush was right. Okay. We know, okay, as a demonstration of the principle, consider two contradictory statements. All lemons are yellow and not all lemons are yellow. And suppose that both are true. If that is the case, anything can be proven. For example, the assertion that unicorns exist by using the following argument. Premise 1. We know that not all lemons are yellow. Oh, wait, these aren't premise 1, sorry. Okay, so 1. We know that not all lemons are yellow, as it is assumed to be true. We know that all lemons are yellow, as it has been assumed to be true. Therefore, the two-part statement, all lemons are yellow or unicorns exist, must also be true, since the first part is true. However, since we know that not all lemons are yellow, as this has been assumed, the first part is false, and hence the second part must be true, i.e. unicorns exist. Okay, so this is like a more complicated formal way of showing that you're going to... But regardless of whether or not you understand this, if you have a contradiction in any like logical system, then from that, you can essentially invent anything, right? For like a more kind of, I guess for like a more, I'm trying to think of a way to make this. I did not understand that. Okay, yeah, we don't have to, okay. Let's say somebody gives you like a set of rules. If somebody, let's see. Let's say that we go to camp, okay? Let's say that you go to camp and let's say that the camp counselor say nobody is allowed to eat the sandwiches, okay? And no one is allowed to eat the cookies. Like that's their rule. Right? If you walk in and then all of a sudden a camp counselor, you watch them go over and they start eating the cookies and you go, wait, hold on. You said that no one was allowed to eat the cookies and now you're eating the cookies, right? Well, the camp counselor says, oh, well, fuck you, right? If you ask for justification, like, well, why are you breaking your rule? There's like an inconsistency here. And the camp counselor is like, oh, well, fuck you. I'm just doing it, right? The problem is that every other rule becomes like subject to interpretation, because like if you're going to start to betray some statements, if you're going to start to say that some statements, you know, you're going to contradict, well, why should any statement stand? Essentially, it seems like you're appealing to some other value, some deeper thing that you haven't made apparent. Like you can't have, this is why you can't have contradictions in your systems, because if one rule is able to just be arbitrarily stricken, then it seems like you're appealing to some other system, and any rule could be stricken, right? Could you describe your political positions and name things most important for you? I've watched your stuff on YouTube on and off, and I have mixed opinions about your positions. You can debate, and you do seem to be honest and genuine, now more than before. And as someone who's right-wing, I think you're the only one who's sympathetic to the left, if not left-wing, whom I believe is honest in their conviction. Oh, well, thanks, buddy. My position, I thought about sketching this out. I'm working on this manifesto. I'm working on too many things right now. I'm overloading myself. I'm gonna get fucked. I should have taken today off. My position all stems from the idea that I want the best world to exist for myself, okay? That's what I want. By extension of that, having people around me that are happy, healthy, wealthy generally is better than not, right? So through a whole bunch of legwork in terms of mapping out different positions, figuring out some framework by which to apply our moral statements, figuring out like our individual like applied positions, like doing all of this stuff, right? Typically what I would want to realize is a world where most people are happy, healthy, wealthy. Is like generally like what I view. That's basically all I want. Like what policies or things can we do that protect greatest amounts of people's rights and help enrich the greatest amount of people's lives, basically. That's like the... Do you want a world that's best for you or for everyone? Well, I want a world that's the best for me, but it seems like the only way to do that and to get other people to buy into the concept is I am assuming that everybody else is coming from the same foundation. So there's going to be some level of cooperation that's required in order to create like the best world for myself. Yeah, we end up in some like pseudo Rawlsian position, I guess. I say having never read any Rawls before. Has there genuinely been no legitimate argument that pushed you to consider fuck other people and go for otherwise immoral or greedy positions? I think that it's pretty inhuman to take pleasure out of fucking over other people, and I think that you trying to fuck over other people is going to make you your life worse. I genuinely believe that. Without getting too personal, when I say people like Bob Seven or other like people like Denims like remind me of how I used to be, I don't think that the problem between me in my early 20s and me now in my early 30s isn't that I became like morally gooder, or that I became like a better person, or that I became like a more compassionate human being. The problem was just one of intelligence, I think. I think that if you're relatively smart and relatively cold, it's pretty easy to manipulate people in pretty inhumane ways. However, I think that if you're a little bit more intelligent, you realize two things. One is playing games with people will, in the long run, almost always turn out bad for you. Real life is not like a Hollywood movie. You're going to get caught lying to somebody. You're going to get caught fucking up. And once you have a bad reputation with a certain person, that sticks forever. And if you get a bad reputation in a community of people, that sticks forever. You're completely fucked. So that's like realization number one. Realization number two is it's probably better to have people that you can be open and honest with than it is to have people that you constantly have to lie to. I think it just makes everything like way easier. So like there might be some girls that I could date or be with that would require me to have like alternate accounts that I do things with on incognito windows or some shit like that. Or I could just try to find somebody that I could be open and honest with for everything, and I don't have to worry about lying or keeping different stories straight or like logging into my fucking second phone late at night or some shit, right? It's not like a matter of like, oh, like, let's be the best person we can because blah, blah. It's more like if you're nice to other people and you treat other people well and you're open and honest with people and you like are compassionate to other people, you're likely to get the same type of behavior in kind returned to you. That's like the big drive for that, I think. Yeah, for me at least. The part where he said Jesuit school made him own his positions made me happy. It was something they drilled into us a lot. I don't know how much sticks around from my schooling or not, but I feel like this is the reason why I liked my Catholic high school education so much more than my Catholic private school education or my elementary school. Catholic elementary school for me was every horrible stereotype of religious education ever, but my Jesuit high school education was so much more like, who the fuck cares what verse you read of the Bible if you don't actually live your message? Like, and I think in my Jesuit high school, they hardcore emphasized like you needed a minimum number of community service hours to graduate. We had like self-development classes that were required as part of our curriculum. Like we had, I think for the junior, you had to take a class called Moral Values that was literally just exploring like how are ways that you can be like a good person in the world. How can we understand ourselves, stuff like that. Like I appreciated the fuck out of stuff like that. I think the education I got in my high school was really good. I'll probably send my kid to my Jesuit high school. I imagine so. Yeah, but. Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed. Ooh, well.